Ever wondered how a law firm generates business? Or how to choose the right candidate for your firm? Wanted to know how the legal landscape is changing? What is this legal tech that everyone keeps talking about? And where is the work-life balance in today's scenario? I, Anshul Gupta, the co-founder of Might Legal, brings to you Raising the Bar. Your very real and candid take into the workings and insights of being in the legal business in the post-COVID world. In this podcast, I reach out to my colleagues in the legal fraternity to talk about all the questions you as a lawyer may ponder upon. Unchartered, Unwritten, Untraveled. Today's guest is someone who has redefined these words in his own way. Today, we have a guest who's taken not only a road less traveled, but a road many lawyers would dare take. And that is to open his independent law practice. So today, we will get into the how, why, of what it really takes to open an independent law practice and how to really scale. So welcome to Raising the Bar, Sameer. I must say, when we were thinking about doing this episode with you, there was one thought that struck with me, and that was, why would you really want to go independent so early in your career, right? And I think this episode I would like to dedicate to all the law students and associates out there, because I think they really would like to understand from you what made you tick to go early in your career. So, to begin the episode, I think the first question that I have, how did you really break this to your family, your mentors, and how did they take it?
To be honest with you, Anshul, that's a question which still bothers me. It still troubles me. I'm yet to find an answer to that. It was rather than more of it being a hurried and a sudden decision. It was a planned decision. And my mentor, my senior, Mr. Rajshekar Rao, who I worked with for 5.5 years, he was instrumental in this. So after 5 years, a good 5 years, 5.5 years I spent in his office, he was the one who pushed me that, okay, fine, this is the time to go independent and you should now just get into the swimming pool and do your own dipping in water. So that's how I took a conscious call to go independent, to discuss with my family, to discuss with my senior. And that's how that was the day, and today is the day, and here we are.
Yeah, I think, definitely starting up and taking the plunge is perhaps the most difficult aspect. And I think having your family's backing with you is definitely a very, supportive aspect towards it.
And I had the right people around me to push me, to give me that belief. And in litigation, that's a very important thing, which I must share with you, that you should be surrounded by the right people who give you the right outlook in this profession. Because in this profession, it's very, very easy to get distracted. It's very easy to just get off the path because of XYZ reasons you and I both know. There is also beauty in this profession. And the more you be patient, the more you wait, there's always that silver lining in the sky waiting for you.
Absolutely. So coming to my second question, Sameer, coming from a startup background, there's always a question that, whenever you're launching a startup, will your clients take you seriously? How to really, get the doors open and get clients? How has your experience been with that? Has there been any situations where you found it hard, convincing clients, since, you were so-called the new guy on the block?
I still convince clients that please come to me. But in the start, that trivializing and that patronizing issue happened. Whenever, let's say, you appear in court, there are a few seniors, a few judges who did not have that belief that, okay, fine, someone so young can deliver. But ultimately, that's the beauty of the profession. You will get various opportunities, and the idea should just cling on to them and make use utilize those opportunities. Unfortunately for me in the beginning, yes, it was a difficult transition from working under someone and then going independent. But as and when you spend more time in the profession, as in when you make more contacts through XYZ, you slowly get stabilized in the profession, and ultimately these things of trivializing a young lawyer or patronizing a young lawyer takes a backseat, and people find merit in you, and then they start giving you opportunities.
Sure, I think, like you rightly put, more than age now, the factor is what results are being delivered. If the results are being delivered, then age is no barrier.
Correct. That was a story maybe 20 years, 15 years back. But nowadays, if you visit any courtroom, be it Delhi or be it any other state in India, there are people sitting across the bench who will recognize your worth, who will give you opportunities to argue. And that's what matters as a young lawyer. You need opportunities to showcase your talent, to showcase your merit. And that's how it picks up.
So, Sameer, one thought here is that there'll be a lot of people out there, young lawyers, associates, who would also be thinking to start independently, but somehow the courage is not there. So, in your experience, what was the toughest part or the challenges that you faced when starting independently, and how did you really overcome those?
Anshul, the biggest thing is that sense of insecurity. Till the time you're working under a senior, you have that protective umbrella. But when you think that, okay, fine, I should go independent, the questions keep haunting you. That how will I get work? How will I get new clients? How will I retain those clients? So all these questions used to keep troubling me. They still are there as one segment of my personality. But ultimately, the idea is to just take that plunge, because till the time you take that plunge, you will not learn, you will not see. And therefore, once you take that dip in the pool, ultimately everything, and that's the mantra that I follow, everything will fall in place eventually. And I'll share one secret mantra with you, which my senior has taught. Just keep your head down and just work. Ultimately, everything will come to you and you need not worry. And that's what is, fortunately for me, surrounded by right people, getting new clients, getting new work. And that's how every day is going. And you need not worry about ancillary things in this profession. You keep your head down, you keep working, everything will be a smooth ride. I know theoretically it sounds very, very easy, or people who are actually struggling to, so to say, I may be sounding like a candy floss to them right now, but take it from me, and I'm sharing it like a personal experience. The more patience you have in this profession, the more dedication and the more determination you have, results will follow and everything will eventually fall in place.
What for you was the simplest or perhaps the most enjoyable part about this? Because obviously, starting independently on a startup, it's not always tough, but there's also a lot of excitement. And, when you get a client, there's a sense of huge victory. So what was a, simplest part or a great, achievement for you in this case?
As an independent practitioner, one tends to have that liberty to set their own schedules. One has the flexibility to run the office in the manner in which you want to, because as opposed to, let's say, working under senior, or as opposed to working in a corporate setup, when you know that yes, this is your office to run, you have that flexibility, the discretion to decide as to what should be the schedule, what should be the manner in which you should run your office. And I believe ultimately, it may sound naive right now, but ultimately it's a very, very satisfactory feeling to be your own boss. When you know that the accountability in your head directly, that's the best feeling, because that is the driving force ultimately. Once you know that, okay, you are the single point connection between the client and the office, automatically one has to pull one's socks up and therefore be ready for all the challenges that lie ahead. So I'll say flexibility, and I'll say the discretion to chart out your own course is the simplest thing that one can see as being an independent lawyer.
So an extension to that, what for you would be the biggest advantage of being an independent lawyer? And where I come from that, a lot of people there would be, why would I go independent when I have the security of a job? I have a senior who can, help me with clients, etc. And being an independent lawyer is like a completely different ballgame. So what would you say to people who have that type of thought, and, how would you try to pitch being an independent lawyer to them?
Unfortunately, I've not had the experience to work in a corporate law setup, but I've had internships in working in a corporate law setup. And if I say anything that, okay, fine, the advantages of being an independent lawyer vis-a-vis working as an in-house counsel or a transaction lawyer, that may not be fair on my part to compare. Everything has its own advantages and disadvantages, and I may just sound gibberish when I say that, okay, fine, ABC are the advantages when being an independent lawyer over working in a corporate law setup. But yes, the one thing I have observed and I must share with you is that in a corporate law setup or in an in-house setup, you will agree that there's a multi-layered setup organization. Whereas in an independent lawyer's office setup, that is a single point accountability. So the advantage of going independent and working as an independent lawyer, you're directly in touch with the client. It is not a hierarchy that you have to follow. And that's the biggest advantage if one is considering going independent. That's the biggest, and that worked in my favor, because ultimately when you are directly dealing with the client, that gives you not only a lot of exposure, but yes, a lot of accountability also. And therefore you tend to work harder and even more better and deliver the results in the manner the client wants you to.
So, I know that you've worked with a variety of clients, even clients including startups, right? So I know I can't ask you who's the best client, but I think that'll put you in a tough space. But I would love to know one or two instances where you felt that you're actually, on the right track in terms of where you helped a client which they even felt was very difficult. So what, something of an incident that kept you motivated?
Every client is a God's gift, to be honest, especially when you're independent. 1 client, 2 clients, 10 clients, that's purely God's gift. But if you ask me that couple of instances, I'll share one personal experience with you. It was 2 years when I had gone independent, and there was this one client who wanted something to be done overnight. It had to be filed urgently before the High Court of Delhi the very next morning. And that very night, I had one of my closest friends' birthday party. Now, I was in a dilemma whether to attend my birthday party or whether to attend to the client and deliver what he wants. Fortunately for me, I prioritized delivering to the client and spending the night in my office and churning out a draft overnight and then getting the relief for the client the next morning. And Anshul, you'll take it from me that was the day when that person trusted me and I reposed back that trust. And today is the day when he has referred me 5 more clients and his continuous work inflow keeps coming. So I'll say to all the law students and to all the budding young lawyers and my colleagues at the bar, prioritizing things is very important. I'm not saying that you shouldn't have a balanced life. I'm not saying that work should always be surrounded by work. But yes, when when it matters, when you think that yes, the opportunity is coming to you, one should learn to prioritize things even at the cost of sacrificing a couple of things. Because ultimately that I would not have chosen that. I would have lost on a variety of matters. I would have lost on a variety of clients. And that's the only thing fortunate enough for me which worked in my favor. So that's one thing which clearly I distinctly remember. And I will not name the client, but yes, that client was a very, very big help in my independent practice.
Sameer, you've hit on a very important point for all the young lawyers out there, is that customer service, right? Client service. And specifically when you're going independent, if you work very closely with clients, they can actually be part of your organization for a long time, and like you rightly mentioned, refer a lot of other customers. So very happy to hear that. The next question is more from the side of the companies or the clients. What does an independent practitioner really bring to the table that firm would not? That's something that I think you would have been asked multiple times whenever you try to look at a client. So what are your thoughts on that?
It's a very difficult question to answer because you are putting me in a tight spot right now. Like I said, there are different advantages that a law firm brings to the table, and there are different advantages that an independent lawyer brings to the table. For me, how I pitch myself to the corporate clients is because that's the question that they ask me, that okay, fine, we have an independent lawyer in front of us and we have a corporate law firm in front of us. Why should we come to Sameer Dawar? The only thing which perhaps comes to my rescue is that when you are sitting with the client, you are able to give that impression and impress upon the client that whatever a corporate law firm is able to deliver, as an independent lawyer, you are able to deliver in a much more effective manner and in a more cost-effective manner. And that's the only thing which tricks in an independent lawyer's favor. Ultimately, and that's the beginning, because ultimately when a new client is coming to you, they don't see your work. They haven't seen your background. It is only by someone's reference or someone's, the client sees you arguing court, and you take your reference. But ultimately, that's the first thing. Once you deliver for the client at the first very instance, take it from me that the subsequently he will come back to you no matter what happens. And that's where I need to highlight this, that delivering results, delivering outputs to the client is very, very important, and creating that first impression very important. One can clearly boast of different things that, okay, fine, I have this, I have that, a law firm does not have that. But ultimately what matters is, in today's time, fortunately for young lawyers, has advanced to such a level where a client is only looking for relief-oriented lawyers. Now, be it an independent lawyer or be it a corporate lawyer, one is looking for a relief-oriented lawyer that who will give me those effective reliefs. And if you are able to deliver that as an independent lawyer, nothing can stop you, and sky is the limit.
What made you really get into litigation, right? So did you explore other forms of law, or were you always focused that you want to get into litigation? So, what was the thought behind that?
I graduated from National University, Delhi in the year 2013. You will not believe me that after graduation, I was always, in my law school, I was always fascinated by corporate law, fancy jobs. Till my 5th year, I kept on trying for a corporate law firm that, okay, fine, I'll start my career with working in a law firm setup. Fortunately for me, as luck would have it, I did not get a job. So after graduation, I was jobless. So graduating from one of the best law schools in India, I did not have a corporate setup, corporate law firm line up with me. I waited for a couple of months. I thought, okay, fine, if this is not what is happening, probably something else is my calling. Because in my college, I was always into mooting. I was always passionate about mooting. So ultimately, I thought I'll start with a corporate law firm setup, and then eventually I'll see whether I want to do litigation or not. But as fortune would have it, I did not get a corporate job, and I started working with my senior, and that's how it started. To answer your question, I was not very certain till my 5th year of law school what I want to do. And most of the law students who are watching this, who may watch this, will agree with me that you will not have clarity till your 4th or 5th year. So if someone is very, very sure that, okay, fine, I want to do this, I want to do that, because there are colleagues of mine who are very sure what they want to do in the 3rd year itself or the 4th year itself. But for me, that was not the case. So one need not be harsh on himself or herself. Everything, you will get clarity eventually. For the manner in which I got clarity was not really a good experience for me, because it is not a good feeling to not have a job after graduating. But ultimately things fell in place for me, and I started working with a litigating lawyer, and that's how, and in that office I developed an interest in litigation. And that's the time when I was in that office, I told myself that yes, this is my calling, this is where I want to be, and this is what I want to do in the next 15-20 years. My litigating journey began, and that's how I developed that interest, and that's how I am in front of you right now.
That's definitely a very interesting journey. I mean, if you would have gone into a corporate law firm, I don't think I'd be asking questions about how did you go independent. So I'm glad your life took its turn.
Whatever happens. I was not a believer of this, but whatever happens for good.
Yeah.
And the good happened in this way for me. See, sitting in this office of mine, it's very easy for me to give these talks right now. But every law student and every young lawyer should keep this in mind, that whatever happens will come to you eventually, and whatever happens for good. So please just keep your head down, keep working hard, and just keep having that determination and belief in yourself that you will do good eventually.
Great. I hope the associates and early lawyers are all motivated by that conversation. So thanks for that. Coming to a bit of a more casual question, can you perhaps give us an example of a very funny incident or situation that happened in court with you, and how was that?
It was not a funny situation, but it was more like pat on the back kind of a situation where the judge complimented you when I was not expecting at all. So I had a matter to argue before the honorable judge, and it was a tricky matter. I was not hopeful whether I'll get result or not, but I thought, okay, fine, let's give it a shot. It was a revision petition. The judge heard me for good in 15 minutes. Ultimately, he said, the counsel, you withdraw your matter, otherwise I'll pass an adverse order. So I took that indication of the learned judge. I withdrew my matter and I said I will not press. I had shut my files. I was about to leave the courtroom. Suddenly I hear a voice of the learned judge that please wait. So I looked back. I'm like, oh, probably there is some clarification which the learned judge requires. I went back to the dais. The learned judge asked my name. That counsel, what is your name? I told him my name. He said, counsel, I agree that yes, you had a tough case to argue, but take it from me that professionally you argued wonderfully. I really liked the manner in which you argued. I really liked the manner in which you knew when to stop and when to withdraw your matter. You're not one of those counsel who kept on pressing. So that's an art that you have as a litigating lawyer, to know what the judge wants and to stop when the judge is asking you to, rather than continuously keep arguing. And he said, you have a long way to go, Mr. Counsel, and just keep it up. There'll be a lot of good opportunities coming your way. So that was one day when I told myself that, okay, fine, I am on the right path, and then perhaps I'm doing something good, that I'm inviting such compliments from the judge. And till now, whenever I'm down or whenever I am not in the right spirit, I look back at these instances, and that's what perhaps keeps me going, and that's what the profession is about. There are bad days, there are good days. When you have those bad days, the key is to just remember those good days and keep moving forward slowly and steadily.
Yeah, I think you mentioned when you go independent or even launching startup, there are tremendous amounts of doubts and instances where you feel like, what am I doing? And such instances where someone tells you that you're actually on the right track can be a huge motivation. So congrats to you on that bit also. Coming back to being an independent lawyer, right now, you don't have a team, etc. So does it ever become a big challenge for you because you don't have anyone to lean on both professionally and personally from the work aspect?
Oh, definitely, yes. And that's one of the disadvantages of being an independent lawyer as opposed to working in a corporate law setup or as an in-house counsel. That's one of the disadvantages that we face. But fortunately, if you have good colleagues working in your office, and most importantly, you have a good office clerk who can run the show, I think the handicap can be overcome, and it should not be a problem in the longer run. But yes, initially, when you are starting your own practice, when you are setting your own office, this is one of the most major handicaps that one faces, that you are a one-man army, one-team army. So therefore, to build that team and therefore to have that set up in your own independent office takes time. But once it's done, it is as good as working in a corporate law setup.
So Sameer, we've all seen that COVID has changed industries, and legal industry obviously was also affected by it. And we saw a lot of people who graduated last year finding it very difficult to find internships or even jobs in that case, a lot of law students. So what would be your advice to them who are demotivated, finding it difficult to actually find a stable position in one of these firms?
No doubt, yes, it is difficult solution for everyone. Not only for law students, but for lawyers also. I must confess that for lawyers also, it's been tough 1.5 years. And I'm not hiding anything. It's a very, very grim situation for everyone across the board in the profession. But for law students, if you specifically ask me, I'll suggest that times like these, make use of the social media. Create those LinkedIn profiles. Reach out to people. Send those emails, because make those connects. And networking is very, very important. In today's time, as opposed to 15 years back or 20 years back, we did not have that medium to communicate. But in today's time, there are a plethora of mediums where one can communicate with lawyers, with law firms, and reach out to them. And you will take it from me that there are people sitting in the profession who want to help young law students, who would welcome them with warm hands and would welcome them with the utmost sincerity and integrity. And that's my suggestion, that please reach out to people. Never hesitate. At the worst, what will happen? You will not get a reply to your email, or someone will not reply to you. But at least you should reach out to people. You should connect with people. And that's one thing which I did not do when I was in my law school or my initial stage of my career. But I'll suggest to every law student in today's time that please make use of these social networking places which are there in existence today. And ultimately, you should not aim at only the top senior lawyers in the country or in Delhi, or for that matter, the tier 1 law firms. firms. Wherever you get an opportunity, make use of it, start your journey with that, make connects there, and then ultimately then follow your dream of wherever you want to work with, because ultimately that ladder will take you there. But at least start. That's the crucial point. Because some of us think that, okay, fine, I will only start working with XYZ lawyers, or I will only start working in an XYZ law firm. That should not be the case. You should start wherever you get that opportunity and make use of it, so that tomorrow you are there wherever you want to be. That's my advice to the law students in these current times.
So basically, from your perspective, networking should be the main focus area right now for the people facing challenges. So all the law students, please do focus on that.
Yes, networking. Before that, just do the groundwork of being updated with day-to-day law updates. Because most of us, including me, and I must confess that we don't read law on a day-to-day basis. I should not say it about others, but at least me as a person, perhaps that's one thing which I need to improve on, that read law every day, be it a law student or be it a young lawyer, because that will take you further and that will differentiate you from other lawyers, and that will differentiate you from the corporate law firm setup. Because ultimately when the client sees that yes, this person or this lawyer knows what he's talking, that will ultimately take you further.
So what are the pointers from your end, for anyone creating a CV? What would be few points that you would like them, which can help them stand out?
If you look at my CV in my law school, it is only about mooting. But I'll suggest the law students that please have a balanced CV. So one should do moot courts, one should do parliamentary debates, one should definitely write articles, and one should also have a mix of cultural and social events in your profile. Because ultimately when the employer is looking at your CV or when the employer is looking at your profile, he will look at, okay, fine, this kid is someone who's done overall a holistic approach. He has got a holistic approach in law school. He's tried his hand at everything. And that's what matters. One should not only just stick to one thing, because unfortunately for me, I just end up doing mooting in my law school, nothing else. If I am seeing the CV, it should reflect that yes, this kid has done everything, be it mooting, be it writing articles, be it publishing articles, be it doing parliament debates, being part of cultural or social committees in your law school. And that's where the advantage of you will have over other kids coming from other law schools. And the employer, at least in my experience, that's what the employer looks at, a balanced CV, not a one-side CV.
You've spent practically, we've spent 2 years in COVID and you've spent this time being an independent lawyer. So what were few learnings that you had that you think other lawyers, associates, students can actually benefit from, specifically if you look at the COVID pandemic?
See, this COVID pandemic has been a turning experience, has been a very, very changing experience for all of us. But one couple of things which I've learned is that clients also now, litigation has become a very, very competitive market. If a client comes to you, he will do his homework, he will go to 10 other lawyers before finalizing something, and he will look at 10 factors before finalizing a lawyer and giving the brief to him. So therefore, it's a matter of cutting your fees. One should be okay with it for the time being, because ultimately, due to in the last 2 years, this market has become very, very competitive, and there are cutthroating right fees which are there now. So therefore, my advice will be that one should be ready to take a haircut, even if it means that in the longer run you can cover it up. And also one should be technologically equipped, because in the longer run, as I foresee, this virtual hearings should be there for a very, very long time. And it's a good, pleasant change that one is seeing. And therefore, one should be technologically up to date. One should be obviously privy and conscious of the ground realities. And one should just see litigation has a very, very long gestation period. And because of these 2 years of COVID that has hit us, the gestation period has slightly become longer for especially the young lawyers. So just keep going, just be slow with it, just be patient with it. This time will also go through, and just keep doing your work very, very efficiently and honestly. That's my take from these COVID times, and that's what I'll suggest to my young budding lawyers as colleagues as well.
So Sameer, just before we wrap up, wanted to quickly know what are 3 pointers you would like to tell anyone who's looking at starting independently?
One, just be true to yourself. That's the most important thing. You can faff to yourself, you can faff to the client, but ultimately at the end of the day, if you're not true to yourself, you will not be a successful independent lawyer. So please, just be true to yourself, just be true to your work. 2 is, like I said in my previous example of my experience when I was sharing my experience with you, that when it comes to prioritizing things, sacrificing at some levels at some points of time is okay. One should learn to prioritize things, because ultimately that will take you further as opposed to other lawyers who perhaps have different ideas in life. 3 is have that discipline, because when you're working with a senior lawyer, or when you're working with a senior, or when you're working under someone, you always have that discretion. ठीक है, हो जाएगा, सब हो जाएगा. But ultimately, when you have your own office to run, when you're sitting in that chair, you gotta have that discipline, because if that discipline is not there, it's very easy to take a detour in this profession. It's very easy to get dejected in this profession, and therefore I'll suggest that please never let that discipline go from your life. Just stick to your work, just be true to your work, and just deliver what the client is wanting. Ultimately, ultimately efforts are in your hands, results are not in your hands. But if the client sees the efforts as an independent lawyer, take it from me that you're the client is never going away from you, and he will stick to you, and he will make sure that your practice flourishes at some point or the other. And that's with every client. I think these are takeaways. And more importantly, just don't be harsh on yourself. It's okay to have bad days. It's okay to have relatively okay days. It's a long journey in litigation. If someone is expecting that within 3 years, within 4 years, I'll start getting to argue matters, I'll start briefing very great seniors in question. Maybe the case, that is the case sometimes. But if that is not the case, then please don't be harsh on yourself and just keep working, and everything will fall in place eventually. Just take it easy, just take it slow, enjoy life. And litigation is independent lawyer. Being an independent lawyer has certain advantages. You can set your own day, you can wrap up early, you can go for that job, you can go for that exercise, and that's how it goes. There'll be days when you have no work, there'll be days when you have a lot of work. So when days you have no work, either spend time with your families, pursue your hobbies, or do whatever. But when there is work and you know that, okay, fine, you need to sit in office till 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the night. And that's what I've learned over a period of time, that one should be ready to just burn the midnight oil. If that desire is not there, independent practice may not be the right course for someone. And that's why I suggest that please be ready to burn the midnight oil and be ready to work hard and harder as much as possible.
So, Sameer, this has been absolutely thrilling. I mean, this personally has given me a lot of perspective what it takes to really not only start an independent firm, but also how to really, continue with it and scale it. And hopefully a lot of our listeners, law students, associates specifically, are motivated and inspired to take the plunge and can actually take tips from, our conversation about what it takes to start an independent law firm and hopefully find success. So thank you so much, Sameer. Thank you so much for being part of Raising the Bar. Really appreciate it, and wish you the best with your firm.
The pleasure is all mine. It was great interacting with you. And I wish all the best to all the law students who are hearing this, and my all young colleagues. Everyone will get a pie in this profession. It is not like the apple is supposed to be one person. Everyone will get a pie of that apple. It is just a matter of time when that pie comes to you, and one has to wait for it. But once it comes to you, then you got to cling on to it, not let it go. And I'll end by that. It was lovely interacting with you. And once again, thank you for considering me worthy enough to be here with you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sameer, for being here today. I hope our listeners were not only inspired by your journey of opening an independent law practice, but also got a very detailed insight about what it really takes. Thank you everyone for tuning in today. Our next episode is with someone very interesting, Pallavi Parikh from Ungendered. And there we talk about what it really takes for workplaces to be more diverse, inclusive, and equal for all. Thank you, and signing off for now, Anshul Gupta.